Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Time Out with the Sports Doctor. Year 2 is officially in full effect. Welcome back to another episode of Time Out with the Sports Doctor, where life, sports, and medicine intersect. I'm your host, Dr.Derrick. Hey, if you have not gone over and subscribed to the YouTube channel, go do that right now. Go to YouTube, Dr. Derrick Burgess, MD, on YouTube, and hit subscribe. You can now get this interview in audio on podcast as well as full video format. So we're excited to have that. Please go subscribe to the channel. This week, sometimes you need confirmation. I'd already been thinking about doing an episode about mental toughness. And if you've been around this podcast for any time, if this is not your first episode, then one of the main pillars of this show is to strengthen your mindset. So we often talk about mindset and how, a mind shift change can take you a long way, and how you have to have a growth mindset instead of just a fixed mindset to be able to change and adjust. But this week I was thinking about mental toughness and tenacity. And I've had several people on my show who really have exuded mental toughness through their careers, through their lifestyle, through just the obstacles that they've overcome. So I want to highlight an episode that I did almost a year ago now that, in the early stages of this podcast, even before I really had a social media presence. And he was still the second most downloaded podcast episode, Troymain Crosby talking about mental fitness. But, I was already thinking about how can I repurpose this content? And I want to talk more about mental toughness. I want to talk more about tenacity. I want to talk more about resilience, because I feel like this is something that's often glazed over, but it's something that separates a lot of high achievers, whether it's in athletics, medicine, in the business world. Many people who achieve at a high level have to have mental toughness, and they have to have the ability to come back day after day, even when you don't feel like doing it. So, sometimes in this life, you need to surround yourself around like-minded thinkers, right? So I'm at work and one of my colleagues came and said, "Hey, have you read the book Mental Toughness for the young athlete?" And I'm like, "No." I said, "That's funny that you mentioned it, because I actually was thinking about doing an episode on mental toughness." He said, "Go check it out. It's a great book." He said, "It's a little odd because, the person that's narrating the book is a high school athlete." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, the book was written by the father and the son, but the person doing it on Audible is the actual athlete." I was like, that's interesting. So I went to check it out. And like I mentioned, Mental Toughness for the Young Athlete by Troy Horn and Moses Horn. So a little background. So Moses Horn is a basketball phenom, currently playing for Oak Hill Academy. And if you know anything about high school sports, Oak Hill Academy is a prep school that has each year one of the top basketball teams in the nation. So this young man has not only played basketball at a high level, but he's been able to be mentored by the likes of Chauncey Billups, CP3, Kobe Bryant. He and his father have a podcast, and he actually was able to interview Kobe Bryant before his death. So not only is he playing at a high level, and I think this is genius. This is genius. Shout out to Troy Horn for your thinking, because to have your son, number one, he's an author. He's already got his own podcast, and he's a high school athlete. So not only is he learning to play the game, but he's learning to use the game to grow his brand, use the game to grow his business. And the book was very helpful. So what we're going to do today, I'm going to go through some of the highlights, that I got from this book. And we're going to talk about mental toughness, and we're going to talk about skills, not only just what mental toughness is, but how do you develop mental toughness in your kids? How do you develop mental toughness for yourself? As I've mentioned many times before, these were lessons that I learned way later in life, but I can't imagine if I was doing some of the techniques that we're going to discuss in high school or even as a preteen, how much further along I would be. So parents, coaches, athletes, this episode is for you specifically. Entrepreneurs, everyone can use some of these techniques we're going to talk about and also use them with your children. So it's never too early to start empowering our children to be able to think through a process, not to, when you are facing an obstacle, don't get angry, process it, use your energy for good. So let's jump into it. So one of the first things that they talk about is mental toughness, and what are some of the roadblocks to developing mental toughness. So first thing, current belief in yourself. Do you feel that you are mentally tough? Or do you feel like when you encounter a tough situation that you kind of cower it down instead of standing up to that situation? So what's your current belief about yourself? Also, your peers, who are you hanging around? We've mentioned before, your network sometimes determines your net worth, right? And what that means is that the people that you spend a lot of time around, or that you contact, or that you speak with frequently, the way that they think will rub off on the way that you think. So check your net, your people that you're around with, your peers, and then your authority figures. So for parents, what message are we giving our children? Are we showing them that we're mentally tough when we back down from situations? How are we speaking to them when they encounter a tough situation? And one of the examples he used, okay, for instance, in basketball, if your kid is playing against one of the top kids in the state, how are you going to talk up this other kid before the game? Or are you just going to say, hey, this is another game. You're a good player. He's a good player. Get out there and do your best. Get out there and do what you know to do. Or are you going to tell them, man, you're about to play against the best player in the state, and make them already start to doubt themselves. So we have to be careful with our words. Our words are powerful, especially when we're talking to people that are very impressionable, our kids, our mentees. So mental toughness is not something that you're born with, it's something that's developed. So there's different skill levels for sure, but I feel with training, you can develop your mind, and your mind is a piece that many times goes without training. We do a lot of reps for our physical body, being in sports, being in whatever we're doing. We learn to practice, we learn to grind through hot days, but do we learn how to condition our mind to get through these tough situations as well? So learn the basics and do it over and over again. There's a saying that says practice makes perfect, but truly it's perfect practice makes perfect. Because if you're doing the same repetitions with bad technique, are you really helping yourself? So we have to learn to focus on small things, learn to perfect them, and learn to do that over and over and over again. You have to decide you're going to win. No matter what the consequences, no matter how hard you have to work, no matter who you're playing against, no matter what you're up against, decide that you're going to win and tell yourself you're going to win until you believe it. One thing is your subconscious mind. So, many times with your subconscious mind, something bad will happen, and then we'll condemn ourselves, or you'll miss a shot, or you won't get the test score that you want. And you might even tell yourself, man, I'm a failure, or I cannot hit this shot. Why can I not hit this shot? Why can I not pass this test? That's something that I had to go and deal with when I was going through the board exam experience that I've mentioned before. The board exam had gotten to be such a huge obstacle that, I developed a fear of it, really. And it had taken over so much of my life, but I had to really retrain my mind to say, look, this is a test. I'm a good clinician. I'm a good surgeon, no matter what this test score says. And it's just a test at the end of the day. And once I was able to minimize the test, I was able to attack it just like any other test. So many times when we're struggling with something, we kind of give that obstacle too much credit, so to speak. So decide that you're going to win. Belief is important. You must tell yourself every day, that you are going to accomplish whatever your goal is. So with goal setting, I had, Dino Adams on the show with Team I Am. And one thing that he says, Hal Elrod, a lot of different people with the Miracle Morning, every day you need to be writing down your goals, writing down your dreams. The more you write them down on paper, the more they feel real to you. And if it's a big thing, the more you say it to yourself, the more it actually sounds like it can actually happen, the more realistic it will actually sound. if you'll continue to write it down every day, continue to rehearse that in your subconscious mind. So it will really take grasp and say, yeah, this is something that we can make a reality. Learn from your failures. And also learn that it is okay to fail. If you believe that it's not, truly believe that it's not okay to fail, you're going to limit the risk that you're going to take because you're in fear of failure. So learn that it is okay to fail and that you will grow from your failure. It's only a loss if you don't get up from that, failure. If you decide to, hey, I got knocked down, I'm just going to stay on the mat, because it's safer to stay on the mat than it is to get back up with the risk of being knocked down again. So the only way you lose is if you give up. So only tell your subconscious mind the message that you wanted to hear. For example, or don't say, I can't mess up this time because this is my final chance. You have to tell yourself, I am going to win. I am going to be successful. This is another good one. Nothing is personal unless you make it personal. So don't embody other people's negative thoughts that they try to speak over you, and also be careful who you tell your secrets to or tell your goals to. You have to tell it to people who are supporting you. Don't just tell it to everybody, because if you tell it to people many times, they're going to start telling you why it can't happen, right? Why your dreams are too big, why they don't make sense, why there's so many limiting factors of why your dreams will not come to fruition. So be careful who you're sharing your thoughts and ideas with, because you do not want to take on everyone's negative opinions or negative thoughts about you, because that will limit your ability to grow and limit your ability to face whatever obstacle that you have to overcome. Some of the mental exercises to strengthen your subconscious mind. Number one, remove the word don't. We talked about that. Number two, visualization. So what does that mean? So before you do any act, so I'll just talk about me as a surgeon. So before I go in the room to perform surgery, I will sit in a quiet space or wherever I am. I'll play in my head what the steps are for the surgical procedure. I've done this, even if it's something that I've done routinely, I still replay. All right, I'm going to go in, I'm going to get the knife, I'm going to make the incision. I have to go through this layer, then I'm going to cut through this tissue. I have to drill here, I have to put the plate here, I have to put screws here. So I go through each step by step. And once I'm in the actual situation, that helps me calm down. That helps me say, okay, this is routine, right? So even when something comes up that's not routine, because I visualize myself doing it successful, I'm more calm and able to just stay calm and work through that. So visualization is very important. And that's a skill that is not taught in sports, not taught in school. That's something that you have to kind of develop on your own. So envision yourself being successful before it happens. Write down your goals and dreams daily. We talked about that. Make your goals achievable. And goals should not be based on outcomes. So what I mean by that is, say I want to shoot 100 shots. Don't say I want to make 100 shots necessarily. Don't start off with that goal, because that's something that you do not have. You might have a bad day, but say I want to go write down my goals 5 days in a row. I want to go hit 10 golf balls. I want to do 10 push-ups. Make your goals achievable. And then the more you start to achieve, the more momentum you will develop, the easier it will be to continue to progress. So the engraving technique. So what this means is that you want to mimic the pros is how they put it. So, for instance, if you want to be a physician, you want to hang around someone who is successfully being a physician, right? So if you want to be a banker, find someone who is a banker, high level banker, whatever type banker you want to be, and mimic their steps. If you want to be an elite athlete, mimic someone who's playing the sport at the highest level. Don't just mimic the person that you see on the playground with poor technique. Mimic Kobe Bryant, mimic LeBron James, watch their tapes, break down how they do things, learn the method behind it. So the engraving technique is mimic people who are successfully doing what you want to do. And then meditation. So what is meditation? We often make meditation a big deal, but truly meditation is just clearing your mind and focusing on whatever you're trying to accomplish, or focusing, just clearing your mind in general and trying to get into a silent state where you can be at peace, where you can breathe, where you can, visualize yourself being successful. So many times in sports, they talk about being in the zone or being in flow state. So visualization and meditation can help you actually achieve that flow state or achieve that zone by being able to clear your mind. You mentioned in the book, in sports, many times somebody will be in the zone and there'll be hecklers on the sideline a couple of feet away, and you don't even pay attention to them because you are so focused on whatever the goal or task is at hand that you're not worried about the rest of your surroundings. So I'll say visualization, this is something that I've never really been taught. Meditation, this is something that I learned when I started doing the miracle morning, to wake up a couple of minutes. All you need to do, give yourself, you can do it as long as you want to, but you can do it for a minute. You can do it for 5 minutes, but learn to incorporate this into your daily activities and you will start to see results from it. And also, when you are practicing, don't practice in the perfect conditions, and this is something that you will hear from Troymain Crosby with mental fitness, is that you want to train in conditions that are not perfect, right? So when or if something goes wrong during surgery, or when or if something goes wrong during a game, you will be prepared because you will have trained in conditions that are not perfect. So every once in a while, go to a dirty gym. Every once in a while, go to an operating room that has dim lighting. Put yourself into conditions that are not ideal so that you can learn to train under different conditions and learn to really be able to still be as successful when everything is not right. So hopefully this will help you. I thought the book was well written, well put together. It was something that at first, listening to a teenager from a book, I said, well, does this really apply to me? But of course, I've learned from this podcast that each time I talk to anybody or anytime I listen to someone, if you open your mind, you can learn from them. And I think it's brilliant. Like I said, the fact that father and son wrote the book, but he let his son be the narrator for the book. And he's really pushing his son to be not only an elite athlete, but an elite thinker. And that's something that really will separate him from the pack as he continues to progress. So as I mentioned, the mental fitness and Troymain Crosby, I wanted to, now that I have YouTube, to bring this episode back up because I think it's excellent. And many times in life, this kid has a father who's putting him in a position to be successful, right? He's teaching them about visualization. He's teaching them about meditation. But many times when I interact with athletes or interact with people, you'll look around and see that many times people that have mental toughness, a lot of times they grow up in conditions that are not ideal, right? So one thing that I think about as a father is now that I've achieved a certain level of success, my children are being able to be raised differently. They're being exposed to different things, but I still want them to be mentally tough, right? So how do I create conditions? So this book was really helpful for me because that's something that I'd spend a lot of time thinking about. Because if your children are given everything, many times they forget or they never learn to appreciate what you're giving them, or they even might get to the point where they expect to be given things, and that can lead down another bad path. So these two stories really are in contrast. Troymain, you'll hear his story. If you haven't gone listen to his full episode, go back and listen to the full episode. But someone who lost his mom at an early age, who was responsible for getting his siblings to and from school. Someone who still, even when he was trying to care for his mother, kept his grades up in school. Didn't get swallowed up by, the bad community that he was growing up in, and still had the mental fitness and the mental toughness to make it out of the impoverished surroundings and to continue to achieve. So I really, if you listen to his story and then go listen to this book, you will see how there's a lot of things that contrast between their upbringing. However, the same thing is achieved in the end. So without further ado, we're going to get into this episode with Troymain Crosby.
The Sabre training bat is like no other training bat you've ever used before. So the purpose of the Sabre training bat with its modified barrel is so that you can perfectly sequence and get behind the ball, getting the bat on plane sooner, creating less miss hits, more line drives, higher batting averages, and more exit velocity. The Sabre training bat is the #1 training bat on the market. Sabre Bats, the training bat that's going to take you to your best swing.
So on Timeout with the Sports Doctor, this is your final timeout, right? So, fourth quarter, down by 2, you got 15 seconds left, right? You got your team in the huddle. What's the message to your team?
I'm finna get the right play and we're gonna get it. Like, we're finna win. Really just get it to me, honestly. Like, with a coach, I say, like, it depends. I feel like I can't give you a pinpoint because it really be like my mood and the heat of the moment. Because, like, that's what more so, like, on the court, my emotions will come out. So it'd be like I'd be in the heat of the moment, so I have to feel it. But to think of it out top, dealing with the players I was dealing with, I'd be like, certain players I had to tell to do certain things. Like, for example, like, I tell him, like, make sure you set a real solid screen because, like, I'm going to set them up because I'm knowing I got a good point guard. They're going to get it to them, so it really be more so on the screen. And I tell them, boy, like, all or nothing. Like, here it is. Like, you got 15 seconds left. It's the game. It's what it is. Like, we can't mess up. Like, you got to pay attention to the detail, to the smallest thing because the devil's in the detail. So we got to make sure we ready, like, focused, locked in once we come out this huddle. Then I'll be like, all or nothing, team on 3. And, like, we'll break. To go out here and execute the play to perfection, whatever the coach called up, So that's what I tell them.
Absolutely. In a moment like that, what do you go to in your mind as far as focus?
Repetition, silent, same thing. Been here before. 10 shot in a row, all net. That's what I'm thinking to myself. I'm betting on myself. Actually, 20 no rim. I'm calling it out. 20 no rim, and like. I hit. I don't. More than likely, I'm finna hit, though, because I done shot it so many times. So it was just gonna be another shot for me.
I love that. I love it. All right, man. So one last thing. So for someone who's looking at you saying, man, Troymain, he's a college graduate now. He's looking to play professional basketball. How do I get to where you are? What would be your advice to a young kid trying to follow in your footsteps?
I say, gain the skill of listening and don't be afraid to say no. I tell them that for sure. Like, learn how to listen and ask the right question and you'll get your answers to a lot of things. And believe in yourself. Stay self-motivated, and if I'm talking to them, I tell them, like, stay self-motivated, control yourself, learn to compartmentalize your feelings, your emotions, get that under contact. And mentally, take care of your mental. That's highly important. I say taking care of your mental, like mental fitness, like that's gonna be coming real soon. Actually, like my brand, mental fitness, not to get off track, but like mental fitness, where like I'll be working out, but we working the body, but we also training your mind as well. That me and Pettis got going. It's gonna be coming near here in law real soon once I get everything acclimated on international basketball. But I'm talking to a youngster, I'm telling them, like, take care of his mental. Don't be afraid to ask questions, and listen, like, I'd be motivated in that manner, like, my 3 pointers, and tell them once they gain knowledge, understanding, and wisdom, they'll be able to fulfill a lot of things in their life and be able to reach the success and it comes to the dream that they want to, give them those few pointers. And then I tell them, they spend a little older and they say, I get them, like, come around again, I remind them, like, certain things like that. Then I tell them, like, don't get complacent. So you can find yourself growing and doing this and that, and you find yourself complacent. Now you can sit back. Now you start to backtrack, not even knowing. So like I form certain youth groups like that, you know, with some guys my age that know better, you know what I mean? Like, and grew up with me. So like, come on now, we really got the same perspective, grew up in the same neighborhood, so there's no excuse for you. I chose a different path, you know what I mean? Made a different decision, honestly. Just made a different decision. That's what separated me a lot from guys, you know.
So, you know, I had the ability to run into your grandmother today. And
Yeah.
I told her, I said, you know, I'm going to interview Troymain today. I said, give me something. And she said, that boy is different. Always been different. And that's the real deal, you know, and it shows in everything you do. So I'm proud of you, man. And you're going to, like you said, you're going to change your family. You're going to change the outlook for a lot of people growing up in Queensburg, growing up in Mississippi, coming out of a small, historically black college and university to be able to do the things that you're going to do.
I really appreciate that, Doc. For real, I'm grateful to have you and meet you at coming out of high school as well. You play a big role that you don't even know. And having this put me on this podcast really means a lot to me. It's like it's an understatement. I really don't even know how to express the feeling to you outside of smiling and telling you thank you, man. Thank you. I really appreciate everything
man, you're more than welcome. You're more than welcome.
Yeah.
I see things in you that you might not see in yourself just yet, but you got a line on the inside.
I got it tatted on me as well, you know.
Right. So tell me more about this mental fitness.
Mental Fitness was a group that I LLC and during the first pandemic. Once I really was learning more about my history, learning more about things that I was finding a passion in, and really like once the ball actually stopped bouncing at that time, and once it came to a halt, it made me think like, okay, like what you really like to do. And then I find myself like to be in shape, like to work out, like to help other people out with their bodies. You know what I'm saying? To help them reach to their goal. And then like I find myself like asking myself like, how did you get your body the way it is? How did you become fit? And then the answer to it, like mentally, like I locked in, like I made my mind up mentally that like this how I want it, like this what I've got to do. So every day I wake up, I'm like make my mind up like, okay, I'm playing my day out like this. I'm gonna do this. And then my mentor installed in me like two powerful things, like a made up mind and a person who have nothing to lose. And Lord willing, it was crazy to say that I'm both, that I can say that's where I'm different at because I'm both of those, you know? So I have both of those traits installed inside of me. So like the mental fitness came with us mentally getting people right. Not only like our workout's gonna be tough, but like the condition of it really just gonna be mentally draining. So like we'll be pushing you doing like, say like doing a push up on the track in the sun. So the sun is messing with you mentally, but it's the same 10 push-ups you would do if you was at home finna get ready to go to bed. You finna wake up and start your day out, do you like 10 push-ups, the same 10 push-ups. It's just that we added the sun and a hot track. So now it's, you know, so no, now it's mentally challenging you as well as it's physically challenging you. So I LLC that mental fitness, and that's how I plan to utilize my degree in sport management on operating my own facility and whatnot and those nature. So like now I just gotta build my capital and get ready to start funding and investing into that. So like that's what it really came about. And me and Pettis, he gave me a different mentality. So, you know, like grinding with him, going through tough workouts, breaking like just built something, just made me different from the ground up, you know, and like I gained that skill set of listening throughout him under his wing, you know, and that's where I really came from about with my serenity and poverty and mental fitness, you know, so like that's where they're gonna come from, you know. So ready to make that really big, like 24/7 fitness, crunch fitness, LA fitness, like go, like that's the long-term effect of it. But right now I gotta focus on that. Like I was telling you, can't think of tomorrow.
First things first, right? Yeah.
Things first, brick by brick, you know, layer by layer, one step at a time.
So tell me about serenity and poverty. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's me growing up in Queensburg, facing all those tough things, you know, like so many things being thrown at you as a young kid growing up in the hood, growing up without like parents to like growing up with no idol, growing up with no role model. You know, like I don't look up to no one. Like I might be inspired by I'm inspired by my peers' actions, you know, like, okay, you did this was the outcome of, okay, so if I do it, it's going to be the same outcome. Okay, if I follow your track, you know what I'm saying, to the medical field, staying consistent with it, being efficient on my reading, on my work, I can end up in Dr. Bird's position. But that's not, I don't want to be that on my outcome. So like, I don't want to do that. I'm going to focus more right here. So like, you know what I'm saying, picking parts from my peers of everyday living that I see, you know, because I don't have no role model. So like, I let my peers and my surroundings inspire me to align with my path, to let me become more whole and find myself, you know? So like, with that being said, to be able to look at someone else's lifestyle, look at someone else's way of living and their decision making, I had to calm my mind down. So that's where the serenity part come from, you know? So like, staying calm, being really ask myself those tough questions, having tough conversation with people, accepting being told no, you know, like just 2 letters to me, like being told, oh, that's nothing, okay, no is no, you know? So it's not like it's the end of the world, just somebody didn't accept what you was offering. So just keep moving, you're still living, you're still growing, and there's plenty more opportunity that'll come about. That's just one person out of 1 billion in this world, you know what I mean? And then in poverty came about by staying in Section 8, you know what I'm saying? Not seeing much, not seeing the nice life, slow moving, like, you know, like being in Queensburg, you see sign stuff every day, one way in, one way out. And then I'm at the court 2, 3 in the morning with my boys, with my mud brothers. And like, it's nothing, man. You don't want to grow up that way, not having no role model, not having seen something. So like, me being inspired by some of the bad decisions that we all made just challenged me to continue to grow the right way. Being a leader for my peers and being that different, like not being the same as what was going on, just really being different in all calibers, and I just have my own style. Like, you know what I'm saying? They got their style of doing things, and I created my own style of doing things. So like, truth be told, with that mindset and having that serenity in me, that's what I created for self. I'm finding myself and knowing who I was, and like, that's the mission statement that I have to give to the other kids that's looking up towards me, or that feel like, hey, how you do it? Serenity and poverty. So like, I ask me where it come from. I go in depth as in like, you gotta have a calm mind. You mentally gotta take care of yourself. Cause like, being in school, trying to get things done without transportation, it get tough. Like, growing up with my mom, with my ill mother, you have to do a lot of things, you know what I'm saying? You have to get outside your comfort zone a lot. So I grew the mind to just come uncomfortably comfortable, you know? So like, the serenity and poverty really derived from growing up in Queensburg and seeing so many fast money, slow money, all this and that, you know what I'm saying? Seeing the guys that had opportunity in their past to go to college and play ball, what they doing now, you know what I'm saying? Just being influenced by my peers, being influenced by the neighborhood, guys that's been there forever, guys that's really good on the court, street ball, that could really did something with them, you know what I'm saying? Having a good conversation with them, you know, because it's a lot of there's a lot of talent down there in the hood. Like, it's a lot. Like, growing up, I seen a lot of real hoopers, like some savage hoopers, you know what I'm saying? Guys that get it done on the field, natural athletic, like natural buckets in the court that you find in the hood that won't be publicized on TV, or like people won't host no 3-on-3 tournaments down there to see the local talents in the neighborhood. You know what I mean? Which like, I plan to bring down there, because like, it's a lot of talent and give people something to do. So kids can see that it's fun out here, not just a game bang that the media always produce, that the news always producing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they just producing like, okay, he might be a game bang, but he really influence in the hood. Like, he be on the court playing ball with the kid. He out there throwing football as well. You know what I'm saying? He gifting the kids, giving them good knowledge. And I'm about to show the media that. So like, growing up and seeing that thing that was happening, but it wasn't being like glamorized. So like, being able to be in a position to change that with that mission statement, I feel like it get me a long way.
Absolutely. Man, continue to be different. Continue to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations.
Yes,
and
sir.
The sky's the limit. The sky's the limit.
That's real.
Absolutely. So for somebody who wants to follow your path, how do they keep up with you in social media, or, you know, your mental fitness? How do they learn more about that?
You really can, I say, I say that you can follow me on Instagram, but like I'm really not active on the media, but I'm active. Like I try to empower, I try to build up a little platform. But you really follow me on Instagram though, like _ Troymain, TROYMAIN _ and then like you just follow my content, say what you got to say, reach out, share it to me. Like I don't mind talking or giving back to anybody. You know, like I ain't gonna say I'm a friendly guy because I ain't friendly. Like I don't mind help. Like I'm willing to help to my people. Like, you know what I'm saying? To uplift and empower my culture. Like that's what I'm willing to do for a lot. So like reach out to me, whoever may be. Like don't be afraid to talk or speak, whatever. You know, like I'm willing to help and see people grow. Like be a father to many. Like I'm willing to do that, even though like despite that I'm just 22. With the knowledge that like I'm able to give off, I'm willing to give it off and empower the youth, and empower other people, even my age group, or even people that's older than me, whoever it may be. Like to speak my truth, I'm willing. So just like reach out to me, you know, like don't be shy. Like just reach out. Like, a lot of people say like I'm unapproachable or like I may look mean or something like that, but like I just be in my own world, you know, just focused on self, really trying to find ways to grow and be better every day, spiritually, physically, and mentally. Every day I wake up, I do like the 3 goals, like get and be better than those 3 sectors, and life will be good and peaceful.
Absolutely. Well, man, enjoy this next step. You know, Miami is going to be beautiful, but I know you're going down there on a business trip. So
yes,
keep me informed on the next step, man.
I will do. I appreciate you having me once again, Doc.
Absolutely. Appreciate it. Hey, thank you for spending your last night in Laurel with me. Thank you for continuing to support this podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, then please leave a 5-star review. And if you haven't done so, subscribe so you continue to get the updated episodes. Until later, peace.
Time out with the sports doctor. Keep our head right in the game. We ain't never stopping. You are now tuned in. Trust you don't want to miss. This is where life, sports, and medicine